Hey guys, welcome back. I hope everybody is doing well. I recently got a question, and the question was about how to have a godly friendship. How to have a godly friendship, and these principles that I'm going to share with you can really apply within any relationship, marriage relationship, any type of family relationship. So these go beyond just friendship, but that was the question, how to have a godly friendship. So I made a few points here. The first thing that there has to be in any relationship for it to be healthy and godly is for there to be freedom in the relationship. Freedom for this person and freedom for this person. There's not going to be one person trying to control the other person, or one person manipulating the other, or guilting the other person. None of that is necessary, and that will contaminate the relationship, and it will become more and more ungodly the more you tolerate that. Okay, so freedom is what Christ died to give us. He gave us freedom in his salvation, and so we are to receive that, to claim it, to stand in it, to live in it, and to defend it. The second thing I would say is grace and truth is another huge principle that I would encourage two friends to pursue. And in the grace piece, well, first, before we go into that, grace and truth is kind of the foundation of Jesus Christ. If you wanted to look at what we could find in the scriptures to kind of take away, to represent who he is in many ways, not to limit him to this, but in our human understanding and applying to relationships, what could we take away? I like to take John 1:14. Jesus Christ was full of grace and truth. So the grace in the relationship is going to be forgiving someone. It is going to be giving them the benefit of the doubt. It is going to be, letting them be who God has created them to be, accepting them where they are, all of that. Okay, you're going to give them grace, and they're never going to deserve it. And that's the whole point of why it's grace, is because we don't deserve it. But this can help strengthen any relationship when you give the other person grace. But it has to be balanced equally with truth. If you have grace without truth, it's like license. Just like if you have truth without grace, it's like the law. You can really get out of balance. But so the grace we talked about, the truth would be, that hurts my feelings when you do that. I don't like it when this happens. Speaking things, I think your motive is wrong in what you're doing, but you can't see that. Saying the hard things to people that they might not want to hear. That is speaking the truth. I'm not comfortable when you, whatever it is. You have to be able to speak the truth to people. Otherwise, you're living a lie. Your relationship is a lie. And so what you want to try to do is to combine the grace and the truth, because the grace is like the sugar that they used to give before they took the medicine, or they would mix the medicine with the sugar so the medicine could go down. Truth in and of itself is like bitter medicine sometimes that you can't take, but if you put the grace with it, it can go down. So that would be something that you would always want to try to move toward in relationships, is grace and truth. So you could say something like, I know we've been good friends for a long time. I really appreciate you. I want us to, to always be bettering our relationship. And one thing that's really important to me is, whatever it is, then you can say the truth to them, so that you've given grace, and then you can say the truth. Say, please don't step on my toe. I noticed that you stepped on my toe yesterday, and that really hurt my feelings. And whatever, in your case, whatever that would be, you could say the hard thing then, but you've said the grace first, and that kind of opens the door for the truth to go in, and then you can give some grace afterwards if you want to. Okay, so the freedom, the grace, and truth, those are just the foundation of the relationship. And these are some other points. Galatians 6:7 says, God will not be mocked, for every man will reap what he sows, right? Do not be deceived. So you're going to reap what you sow, and in your relationship, you're going to want to let there be an equal balance between being together and being apart. Being together, being apart. Bonding, separating. Bonding, separating. You don't want to be together too much and you don't want to be apart too much. You want to have that balance for whatever is appropriate during whatever stage of the relationship you're in. Okay, it's not always a perfect balance. When I had to leave my husband for 3 months, there was a time for a long period of us being apart. That was appropriate. So don't misconstrue that. Don't misunderstand that. You have to have a balance of together and apart in the context of whatever stage of the relationship you're in. Okay. So an example here would be, we would just start out with the healthy place you would want to have in mind all the time is to be interdependent. Interdependent is when you are dependent on yourself for a lot of things, and you're dependent on other people for a lot of things as well. You're balanced in that. When we go to the two opposite extremes, we get out of balance, and we can be like the codependent independent who needs no one, who has no needs, won't admit their own needs. They live in a silo. They are overly self-reliant. And then they've kind of made an idol out of themselves. And then they're always separate from other people. See, that's one far end. And then the other far end would be the codependent dependent. They're overly dependent on other people. They're very needy. They cannot be alone for very long because they have to be around someone else or they feel incomplete. They're only other reliant. They don't rely on themselves for much at all. They always have to go to other people and they always have to be together. The codependent independent is always apart or separate. The codependent dependent is always together and enmeshed, and they can't separate from someone else because they're afraid that they're going to be incomplete if they're apart from this other person. So you want to, if you're too much over here or too much over here, you want to start to move in the middle and become interdependent. In general, you're more or less equally reliant on yourself and others, again, depending on the situation and in the context in which would be appropriate. And the key word here is balance. You want to balance there, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Another thing I would suggest is number 4, iron sharpening iron. Proverbs 27:17 is important because the way you would sharpen a knife years ago would be with another metal object to sharpen it. And so when two people or two friends or spouses or whoever or partners are together, they can sharpen each other. I can sharpen you and you can sharpen me. And so that's what the relationship needs to have, is that communication both ways where you can both speak the truth in love. It can be grace and truth, but there's always that truth and there's always that openness there. Okay? That has to be there for it to be really healthy and godly, I would say. And then number 5, Proverbs 27:6 talks about wounds from a friend, how those are the best wounds to have are the wounds from a friend because they're speaking the truth to you. And so these are often called therapeutic hurts. A therapeutic hurt is when I say something to you and it hurts your feelings or it injures your pride or your ego, but in the end, it does good for you. See, that's a therapeutic hurt, and we need to be able to give each other therapeutic hurts. We're not doing it intentionally. When I say I'm going to go to the store and say my daughter wants to come with me, and maybe I say, well, no, I just need some time to be alone and to think this afternoon, but I'll go with you. You can come with me next time, and say she gets her feelings really hurt. Well, that was just something I did in the freedom that I'm walking in and to take care of my own heart. But she could have an abandonment wound or a rejection wound from something. And she could be, when I took that action and said, no, maybe another time, that could have given her a therapeutic hurt to show her that there was a wound there that needs healing. So that needs to be able to happen in relationships. And when that happens, not if, but when, you need to have a plan of resolution for the hurt or the conflict. So, I could come back to her. She would come to me and say, "Hey, Mom, that really hurt my feelings when you said that you didn't want me to come with you." And I could, say to her, "I'm really sorry that hurt your feelings. We can do it another time." And, explain to her what I was doing, where it really didn't have much to do with her. It had more to do about me. And then we could get more into, why is that such a big, tender place for you? Where did you feel that before? And then go into that. But the plan of resolution could be whatever would work between the two of you. And sometimes if you've had a big conflict, some people need a break for a day or two. Or I've heard other people say, "I don't want to see you for 3 days." So however it works for you. Other times you get your feelings hurt and you can just say when they get back, "Hey, what happened?" And you can just talk it over. But you got to have an agreement of what would be right to redo whatever happened, or to mend the relationship. Because when there are too many therapeutic hurts, the relationship can start to fall apart because there's been no reconciliation or mending of the relationship. So always have a way to come back and mend. Have an agreement of what will work for both of you to come back and mend the relationship. And when you do that, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and you are iron sharpening iron. But if one person gets their feelings hurt and then ends the relationship, that can't really help either one of them, can it? Okay, so I hope this is helpful. Freedom, grace, and truth, the balance of togetherness and separateness in the context of how it would be appropriate in your relationship, iron sharpening iron, therapeutic hurts, and developing a plan of resolution for your conflict. Okay, I hope that's helpful, and I pray that you will pursue godly relationships and godly friendships, and that the Holy Spirit would lead you in all the ins and outs and the inner workings of that relationship. And so I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you soon.